Hi, everyone. Welcome to We Have This Treasure podcast. Today, I'm speaking with my friend Christy Barfield, who will share her testimony of how the Lord moved powerfully in her life after years of infertility and profound loss. We will hear the touching story of how she found her joy in Jesus Christ again. I think you're going to love this episode, so tune in, and I hope you are encouraged today. I am with my friend Christy Barfield, who I think I've known for, goodness gracious, Christy, maybe 15 years now.
Yeah, I think it's been about that long through BSF and then CCS and yeah. And
And
I've
so
always adored you.
oh my goodness, I adore you too. Absolutely adore you. Christy and I have prayed in Moms in Prayer for many years now. That's how we started knowing each other. And but before Moms in Prayer, we were both in a study called Bible Study Fellowship. Many women listening to this will be very familiar with BSF. And at the end of BSF, it's an intensive study for about a year. I always feel like I have earned some kind of credit toward a seminary degree after going through a year of BSF because it's a lot of homework and I love it. But at the end of each year, we have what's known as a share day, and that's where people are invited to stand up and give a testimony as to how God revealed himself to them that year, or, you know, healed them, or showed them treasures in his scripture, or somewhere along those lines. And so this year, first time I met Christy, this young lady stood up, big auditorium of women, hundreds of women, and she told her story. And I could not help but cry. And I don't know that there was a dry eye in the room. And so that's always stuck with me. It's an incredible testimony. And that's why Christy's here tonight, just to kind of share what happened all those years ago. And so, Christy, thank you. Thanks for being here.
Happy to share. When you asked me to do this, I was like, I can't talk in front of people and I don't like the sound of my voice and all that. But it's really not my story. It's God's story, right? So gosh, it's interesting you saying that about Bible Study Fellowship and me standing up and sharing at that time, because that was just on the heels of going through, my husband and I had gone through many years of infertility and miscarriages and just a long time waiting. We loved kids. We couldn't wait to be parents. And you just think, oh, when it's time and you're ready and God says, be fruitful and multiply, you'll have kids and everything will be great. But that definitely was not how our story went. It took many, many years. And then we were amazed to find out we were pregnant, not just with one baby, but with three. So we had a daughter, Eliana, and we had sons, Joshua and Zachary. They were identical twin boys. And then we were just shocked and really felt like God was doing exceedingly abundantly more than we could ask or imagine. Like after these years of waiting, like all of a sudden we've got all of our family in one shot, right? So our whole church was just really thrilled, had rejoiced with us. They had all been praying for years for us. I was on staff as a children's ministry director. My husband's a teacher. Like I said, we were surrounded by kids, but we really longed to be parents ourselves. And so here we saw God doing this amazing work. And then for the most part, the first part of the pregnancy went really smooth. And then all of a sudden I started having some preterm labor, which is normal with multiples. I went on bed rest, and then at 22 and a half weeks, I went into labor with our kids, and that was on Valentine's Day, 2009. So this was probably like maybe 7, 8 years after we had kind of started trying for children. Um, and so the doctor said the babies are coming, and we're saying, no, they can't. It's way too early. And the doctors are telling us that they are probably not going to make it because of being born so early. But even in them saying that, we were confident God was going to just spare them, and their lives were going to be this incredible testimony of, um, like we didn't imagine that he could give such abundant blessing and then us have such deep loss. And so we were confident that they were going to make it. And so on Valentine's Day, they were born, pound and 1 ounce, pound and 2 ounces, and pound and 3 ounces, just tiny enough to fit in the palm of our hands. They precious, like perfect little babies with eyebrows and tiny little fingers, and they would wrap their fingers around our hands and hold them. And it was all just kind of a whirlwind, just shock that they were there that early. And they, of course, were whisked away to the NICU. And from there, they put them in their little incubators to keep them warm. And I went back to the room. And then shortly after that, we were called down to the NICU and didn't really know what was going on. Went down there, and it was to say goodbye to Zachary. So their lungs were not developed enough at that point, and it was just a little bit too early for the shots that would mature their lungs. And so he had a pulmonary embolism, and we held him as he passed away. Um, and then, just kept praying for our other two sweet babies, and believing that God would spare them. And then the next day, we were called down again to say goodbye to Joshua. And then Eliana was hanging in there. I think they had given me some sleeping medicine to settle me. And so then they called us down to the NICU to say goodbye to her and to hold her. And I was so upset because I was really incoherent and out of it because of the sleep medicine. And I couldn't even like function or hold her. So anyway, I went back to the room, and Brett held her, and she rallied and lived until the next day. And we didn't know at the time, but we had basically everybody we knew had gathered together and were praying for her. And so Brett got some really sweet one-on-one time with her. And then the next morning they called us down. And at that point, I was a lot more clear-minded and was able to hold her and say goodbye to her. So, yeah, just really shocking, horrible, sad. Things didn't go the way that we had anticipated. We knew that God raised Lazarus from the dead. Had he chosen, he could have raised them. And so we just had all of these questions. And
Mm.
God really was faithful in the hospital, comforting us, surrounding us with people. There was just story after story of like people that he just provided around us to love on us and to encourage us and just sit with us in our grief. And he was really near. He gave us scriptures throughout that time. God really encouraged us during that time with his word. He was just so near to us in the midst of such a challenging time.
Mm.
One of the things he gave us was Psalm 27, um, that we had read somewhere in between, I think, losing the boys. We had read, and it says, "One thing I ask of this is what I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and to seek him in his temple." And that was just kind of just the opening the Bible, and that was the passage we came across, and just realizing like every single day of our children's lives was going to be spent in God's presence with him. They had to know so little of the brokenness and the sorrow of this world. They were whole, they were complete and with him. And so the Lord really encouraged us um with that at the time. Um, I think as we left the hospital empty-handed, and of course I had all these hormonal things going on in my body as well, um, the grief, like those different stages of grief really set in. Um, I felt like very held in the hospital. And then as we left, um, Brett and I felt like just when you go through, and I'm sure you've seen this, losing a loved one, like especially as they're passing, like it just changes your perspective on life here and on eternity. And it was like we just felt like we were in this bubble with the Lord. We didn't wanna watch TV, we didn't wanna listen to the radio, we just wanted, like, Brett and I to be together and be in the quiet stillness with the Lord, and everything else seemed so, um, shallow, like, I don't know any other way to explain that, but just
Like a
God.
sacred place. It sounds
Yeah.
like what you're describing is a sacred place
Yes,
with the
that is
Lord. Hmm.
it to describe it, is, just feeling His presence in a very tangible way. Um, I dealt with a lot of questions, like, I felt his presence, but I also, was like, "Did I do something wrong? Did I sin? Was God angry?" Like, different questions that we have for God when we go through those hard things, right? And, he was just really gracious and just loved on me through Brett, through his word, through people, just, again, feeling his presence there. Yeah, sometimes this many years out, Brett and I talk about that sacred place and, like, you don't wanna go through all the heartache again, but you do wish to remain in that holy place, you know? Um, so anyways, I guess, um, when I was at BSF, to get back to that, when I stood up and shared at the end, um, going to church and worshiping was really hard. I worked at the church, felt like I was kind of under a microscope. Um, so I heard about Bible Study Fellowship, and I didn't really know anybody there, and I could kind of go and be anonymous and sit and listen. And so that's what I did. So that was kind of the first place. Like I knew I needed to sit amongst believers. I knew I needed to be in the word. I knew I was battling all these questions and some doubts, and I needed truth. But so that was a good place for me to go and just sit. And honestly, I think I cried every week
Hmm.
through it all, and even
Wow.
when I stood up at the end and shared, I think that was probably what I said. Like, I'm sure I just cried the whole time
Yeah.
because I was just so broken and just sad. But God loved me through that. And yeah, I I remember I couldn't sing words to songs because I didn't wanna sing them if I didn't really feel them or believe them yet, but I was like, "Just keep showing up, just keep showing up," and I think that was just this passage about Second Corinthians 4, um, about being these treasures in jars of clay, like, I was just broken, but he was strong, and he was holding me up during that time. So, yeah, so that's when you heard that story.
It is, yeah. It's when I heard the story, and I remember, like I said, you were on the other side of the sanctuary, and you stood up, and I thought, oh, what a beautiful young lady. And you started telling your story, and I think I remember at one point you were saying that you would go to church and that you weren't singing, but you were there, you kept pressing on. And I remember being struck by that, thinking, but that's very honest, and it sounded like one of the psalmists, like, Lord, I'm
Mm,
wrestling so hard in this, and
yeah.
I'm not feeling the joy. But I'm keep showing up, and I'm waiting for you. And
Yes.
in this place, I just keep showing up and waiting for you. And I think I remember you saying, Christy, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but that at one point you came in and there was like a shift that day, and you lifted your hands in worship of
Mm,
the Lord.
yeah.
Do you remember that moment?
I do now that you said that.
Yes.
Yes.
And as soon as you said that, that's when I started crying because I was like, I mean, I could probably cry right now if I let myself. I thought, oh, that's just this pivotal moment where this lady who has been struggling so much, the Lord just gave her
Mhm.
just even a little bit of an answer, to her prayer, like, I see you,
Yeah.
and that you were able to just, open yourself up again some.
Yeah. You know, I think
Mm.
I think that in our culture we're not really taught a lot about lament, right?
Mhm,
Mm.
mhm.
And I think
Yeah,
God was gracious to give us the Psalms as that example. And man, I could read them and just feel like it was expressing things I couldn't articulate myself. But
mm,
um, I think we have I love I love where we see David saying, like, "Why are you downcast, oh my soul? Put your hope in the Lord." Like we have to speak those truths
yeah,
to ourselves about who he is. And so that was like going to Bible study and then like not even be able to sing, but trying to think on those words and then eventually the Lord did give that lifting where the words started to mean something and not just mean something like as they did before, but something so much deeper, right?
yeah, yeah.
I'll say, and I think everybody goes through a crisis of faith, and I think that that was really
Mhm,
hers all those years ago. Before that, I was a believer for
mhm.
sure. I came to Christ when I was in high school, like a sophomore in high school, I think. But I think that it was just this emptying of I I guess just realizing that um like he's the greatest treasure through it. Like one thing I've said to friends is like realizing like I love him, like he's not just the giver, he's the gift. He's the best thing that there is. And even if I didn't have kids,
Mhm.
he was my all sufficient God. He was all I needed. Mm. And so just getting to know him in a deeper way and seeing his faithfulness through that and his patience and his love. And then over the years, the healing that when I didn't think I could ever be whole again. I mean, I just remember after losing them, like not wanting to get out of bed in the morning and not wanting to live without them, wanting to be in heaven with them and to see the way that God restored hope um and changed our perspective into this like forever changed like heavenly perspective. Um
That's incredible. How much do you, because honestly, I feel like that is really where the Lord wants all of us, is
Mhm.
to know that he is the greatest treasure. That he is, yes, he is the giver, but he is the gift. And I think our society, you know, um, and I think in particular, like our Western society, the way that we think sometimes is it's hard to align our lives with that reality.
Yes.
Very much so, very hard. But how much do you think the lamenting, because you honestly struggled, and you were not going to just kind of put on a face and act like, okay, I'm going to pull myself up by my bootstraps and I'm going to be, superwoman. And you struggled with the Lord.
Yeah.
And I think that's so healthy. How much of that lamenting do you think was beneficial to just where you eventually came to just
Yeah, I think that's necessary, right?
Mhm.
I get to be involved in a grief share ministry now in our church, and one of the quotes that I remember, and I was like, yes, that is right on. Is a guy said like, "We bring our troubles to the only one that can really do anything about them,"
Yeah.
you know, and so absolutely, like he always is there. He listens, he understands, he's experienced all sorrow, all grief. He's right there with us in it, and I think
Mhm.
that being able to pour that out and journaling, I think, is a really good way to do that too. Uh,
Mhm.
it, and just to be able to write it and just kind of this dump, we really encourage people in grief share to write out their grief and their feelings. And it's really cool to see over time too. Like you can look back and you can see the incredible healing that the Lord has done when you have it journaled.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, I think lamenting is critical to the healing process. Um, we
absolutely.
and we grieve, but we grieve with hope.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
I when I wondered, like, does God love me? Yes, look to the cross. Like, there is no greater example, right, than that Jesus would go to the cross for us.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So great. Um, do you now, when you see Jesus on the cross, does it does it matter to you that much more that
Oh,
he
absolutely.
came and suffered in that way for
Yes.
us?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, and that's why my kids are in heaven today. I know that's why I will join them one day. And when you've walked through suffering and you've seen the Lord be so kind through it and loving, and you see the all of these rewards that come from it, right? Because he's using our suffering to develop our character and perseverance and hope and endurance, all these things, right? And so it was like, I would not wish what we went through on anyone. It was terrible, but there's
yeah,
good God brings out of those hard things, right? He redeems, brings beauty out of the ashes. And we have seen that again and again. We've been able to comfort others with the same comfort that he gave us. And um, I mean, just a friend of ours, when we were in the hospital, she's had two different heart transplants. At the time she'd had one.
oh wow.
She was a mentor to me and just
Mm.
dear, dear friend. And I remember her saying, like, God must really love you to allow you to go through this. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, I do anything but love.
What? Yeah.
But now, all these years out, I see like God loved us so much to allow us to
Mhm.
go through this place where we would come to know Him more, where we would trust and grow in our faith. And it was preparing us for things to come, right? Like He's always doing lots of things at one time. We might just see just one of those reasons, but I see again and again, like I said, to encourage other people and point them towards God's faithfulness. And even, being involved now, I'm on staff at a church and involved in Grief Share. Like, had I not walked through that, I couldn't participate in a way that I could sit with others and their sorrow.
Yeah.
Uh, and then, we do have kids now.
Yeah. And I love those kids. Those kids are great.
We have Kiris and Noah. Kiris is 14, Noah is 13. They are amazing miracles, great, just our greatest joys. And I think we're even all the more grateful because of the losses, to have them and know what gifts they are. Kiris's name means grace. I'm
Mm.
sure I'm not saying it right in the Greek, but because they are truly, both of them, just examples of God's grace. But Noah has cerebral palsy, and I just he's walked through in his 13 years of life a lot of suffering and hardship, and I think the challenges and the things that God did through our hard seasons to work those faith muscles and really grow us and reveal himself more and more to us. He's blowing me kisses right now.
Aw, hey Noah.
I think
Yeah.
that all of that has helped us to come alongside him in his own suffering. He's had surgeries where he's had to learn how to walk all over again, like two different times, and just intense pain and just every day everything's harder for him. But I think also, like, helping him learn how to lament, helping him learn how to trust the Lord through these hard things. And then I think Brett and I being able to trust the Lord that he's writing Noah's good story. Catherine Wolf, who is uh,
Yes.
amazing, and we
Love her.
hope heals, and she talked about the good hard story, and I love that because we all have good hard stories, and Noah's got a good hard story that God's writing for him, and we can trust the Lord because we know that even though things are hard, we've seen personally the fruit that has come through walking through the hard things, those being those jars of clay that are cracked vessels, but God's light is shining through. He's our strength and our weakness.
I was listening to Timothy Keller talk the other day, and he was talking about how in many cultures, suffering is a common theme, and that in our country, we really don't expect it. We don't know what to do with it when it comes our way. We think that it's an unusual thing, but it's really kind of a common, just everything that you're saying about it is true. It's right on. It, and I'm like you, I don't ask for it, and I really don't want it, but it's in those moments, I think, that good hard story that God is writing in our lives where we really get to see more of the heart of
Yeah,
Jesus and
that's right.
the character of God, and what he actually can do in us through that suffering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely agree 100%. There's this quote by Johnny Erickson taught it, and she says, God permits what he hates to accomplish what he loves. And that's so good, like it broke his heart, I'm sure, to see us go through what we went through, but he allowed it because
Yeah.
he knew that he could take what was meant for evil and bring beautiful stuff out of it. So,
Yeah.
Uh,
Do you ever, Christy, hear like words of wisdom come from your kids about any of the suffering that they endure, that surprises you?
I do. I do. The past 2 summers, so Noah had hip surgery 2 summers ago. And then he had to have the hardware removed this past summer. And both times, basically it was not just like a little hip surgery. I mean, it was a major thing, and because they had to cut through his muscles, he had really intense muscle spasms where his whole body and it's worse because of cerebral palsy affecting his muscle tone. So basically his whole body would just get really rigid,
Mm.
and it seemed to be worse at night. He was in bed. He wasn't allowed to walk. And so he was in bed. And one thing that I saw him do, and this this just was really precious to me, was he wanted to have we had a TV set up across from his bed. We didn't have a bedroom downstairs, so we set him up in our living room downstairs. We put a TV in front of him, and he wanted it on all the time, especially at night, with YouTube like scriptures to instrumental music.
Wow.
And so what we saw him doing was just renewing his mind, in the midst of such agony and pain. And he was just listening to those scriptures. He would read the scriptures, he would say them, and that's where he found comfort. And, I told him this morning, I said, buddy, it's amazing the things God has allowed you to learn in your 13 years of life
Wow.
that a lot of us don't learn until we're adults. So again, that remembering what that friend said about God must love you. I just feel like God really loves him to allow him to know him in this way, that full reliance on him.
Yeah, that's incredible.
mhm.
Christy, has Noah been to the Hope Heals camp?
He has, yes.
Okay,
Been
okay.
several years. It's been an amazing blessing to us. It's his happiest place where he just feels totally loved and seen, and they really pour into us as parents, as caregivers when we're weary and tired. But just, I mean, pretty much what we're talking about here today is what Catherine really just the truths that she sows into us through her story and those good hard lessons that she's had to learn.
Yeah, I started following her on Instagram. I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or so,
Uh-huh.
and then Tony got the book Treasures in the Dark that she wrote,
Yeah.
and we both have just, I mean, I told Tony, I think besides the Bible, this is one of the most quotable books I've ever read. It's just, I've
Yeah.
read it. I'm going to read it again. It's just incredible.
Definitely.
Recommend it to anybody. And even if it's not, like if you're not dealing with disability, I feel like it speaks to some
Absolutely.
weird places.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so too. Um, well, this has been great. It's been incredible to hear. And, but is there anything else that you feel like maybe you'd want to say? I will tell you this. Sometimes I think about the husbands, because I talk with women. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't talk with husbands. I don't talk with men, about these things, but I do talk with friends, with girlfriends, and I oftentimes do wonder though, how are the men doing? You know,
Yeah.
because that's a lot for them to bear.
Yeah, it is. Well, and I think not only did walking through that grow Brett and I in the Lord, but it
Mm.
grew us so much in our marriage, to be able to, like, no one else has that same exact story except him, and so to be able to go through that together. And there were things at the time that were hard because, like I said, I had all these pregnancy hormones, and there were things in my body, I dealt with, like, oh, did I do something wrong that I shouldn't have that made me go into labor? And like those kind of doubts and questions that were harder for him to relate to. But overall, like I will say, like he just led us well through that. He's amazing, and I think that just made me love him all the more through that. And it should, I think it grew us both and prepared us to be the parents that we are today.
Yeah.
um you know it's 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 a hard job parenting a child with, well, parenting any kids, but with the extra caregiver duties of a child with special needs, and we wouldn't trade it. We absolutely love our son, but I think what we went through prepared Brett to be the dad that he is today too.
Well, y'all
Um,
are doing an incredible job.
thank you. Thank you. Um,
I
I
don't
would, I
know.
have
Maybe.
to say this, your two children are some of the kindest children that I've ever met. I think that,
That's.
hmm
go ahead.
well, I was just going to say they notice other people. I feel like they really live out that Philippians scripture that talks about preferring others over yourself. That's a rare quality in our world, and I think I see that in them.
Well, that's encouraging to hear. Thank you. And that's really all the Lord. I tell you, we say that again and again that Karis is able to see others because of who her brother is and the way she's loved him and cared for him. She's a better mama to him than I am. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that you see that in a lot of families affected by kids with disability. A lot of times the siblings just really turn out incredible because of what they're watching and learning too. Um, so yeah, they have a really, really special relationship. I don't know. I guess one thing in parting, like one passage that I really, really spoke to me that I love is at the end of Job. Job lost so much. Man, what he went through, really talk about losing everything. But I love at the end when he says, my ears have heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. So before all of that, and he still doesn't have the answers to the why. Why did this
Right.
have to happen, right?
Yeah.
But but he's had this personal encounter with the Lord and he's satisfied. Before I had heard, but now my eyes see.
Mm.
And I think that anybody that's going through physical suffering from illness or living with disability or the grief of losing a loved one or financial stuff, like whatever that that hard place is, just know that God is a loving father and he's only allowing things that he can redeem and bring beauty out of, and things that can draw you to him and it give you that personal encounter. So it's not just that you've heard, but you see him personally. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, that would just, I guess, maybe just be my encouragement to others who are in that place now, you know.
That's such a good word. Thank you for that, Christy. That will minister to people for sure. Ministers to me.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
And I just love your joy. It's genuine. That I mean, I know you, and your joy is genuine. It's like something you can't contain. I love that you shine the light of Jesus wherever you go, and I do pray that this just helps somebody, and I think it will.
Me too.
I think
Me
it will.
too. Well, and I love that you're doing this. Thank you. Thanks for helping me go back and just remember God's faithfulness through the years. You know, it's been many years now, but to go back just gives me a lot of gratitude. See,
Oh,
remember
absolutely.
that.
Well, you were talking about journaling earlier. I've journaled for many years now, and I think it was 7 or 8 years ago, I wrote in my journal, I wonder if I should start a podcast. And I started listing people who might be people for me to interview, and you were on that list. Well, time goes by, you're busy, all of the things, and then it kind of circled back around into my life again. And so I think it's just been within the last year. I said to Tony, I think I really want to start that podcast. It's a lot harder than I thought it was for many different reasons, but it's something that I feel like I'm supposed to do. And so the best part of it is the guest and what they've learned as they've walked with the Lord, and how it all points to him and his surpassing power, and how he uses us jars of clay, breakable, spillable, all of
Yes.
those things. But he uses us, and how good he is, just like you're saying, a good father.
Yes.
So
Yep. Well, thank you so much. And you've always been such an encouragement to me. And hey, we don't get to hang out all that much anymore.
I
This is
know, I know
to get to chat with
it
you.
is. Next time we need to do it in person, right?
I thought we were going to have to tonight with our
I know.
troubles.
Yep. Yeah. Christy, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you too, and much love to your family.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. All right. I'll see you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.